It's 5 in the morning. We've just fired up the trigger. It's on smoke mode, and we'll keep it there for the first 4 hours of the cook. But as you can see, it's pretty dark out, and this is part of the big commitment, getting up early so that your brisket's going to be ready in time for dinner. So you'll see I've actually downsized to a smaller drip tray here. I just checked the room that we have on the trigger, and I think we're going to need something smaller. But what we're going to do, as I mentioned, is we'll dump in a bunch of orange juice. This is actually orange pineapple juice, and we'll do the same into our spray bottle, and then we're going to dilute this just with regular tap water. And this is going to be key to adding moisture over the entire cook. And this, we're just going to sit alongside the brisket in the main trigger chamber, and then the spray bottle, as the cook progresses and you're taking a look at it, if it looks like one of the edges is dry, then you'll just hit it with a bit of spray. So we're outside, we're coming up on 3 hours into cooking this 15-pound brisket. As you can see here, we're using the Traeger Junior, and given it's about -10 Fahrenheit or -25 Celsius, we've got a set of blankets just coating the top of this to try to retain the heat. We started off setting the Traeger on smoke for the first hour, the smoke setting. That really just makes sure you fill the chamber with a good solid amount of smoke to get the smoke ring that you're looking for at the start. We ran on that setting for about an hour, and then we clicked over and turned the temperature up to 275. Now, if you're trying to target that 60 minutes to 90 minutes a pound, I'd recommend cooking at 250, but given the temperatures out here, we turned the dial up an extra 25 degrees just to make sure we're cooking the brisket along the right side of the right amount of time. Now, in terms of temperature for the meat, again, we want to make sure our brisket comes off and finishes at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, given the size of the cut, when we put our temperature probe in, we'll take the brisket off at 190 degrees because the temp probe's in the inside of the cut, and when we let it rest for an hour afterward, the internal temperature of the meat will continue to rise. It'll probably rise an extra 10 degrees. So again, a 190 finish is what we're looking for here. So one of the essential pieces to grilling brisket is a meat thermometer and a temp probe. So we've got our little system here, and what's great about the Traeger is you've got a little stand here. You can just set your temp probe right there. Put this into the thickest part of your brisket, and again, you'll notice I'm putting this into the thickest part of the brisket. I've got the cap at this end because this is where the majority of the heat's being generated. That's the fattier part of the brisket that it's harder to overcook. We've got the flat down this end. So again, the point over here, the flat down that end, and the nice aerodynamics here. We've got the heat that'll come up, roll over the top of the brisket, and we've got the cap, the fat cap you want pointing upward, so that all that juice will render down. As the fat renders down, the juice will just spill over the brisket and keep it nice and moist. So we're about 4 hours into our cook here, and you can see on the thermometer the internal temp's reading about 158, so we're making good progress. What we're gonna do is just a little moisture control. So we've got some juice that's just been diluted with water. We're gonna hit the brisket with that. Again, as you have this on the grill, you're taking moisture out of the meat. So we just hit it every once in a while with this spray, just to make sure the moisture content stays in there and you get a nice, juicy, succulent brisket at the end. You'll also see way in the back corner there, that's the drip tray that we had filled with juice and again diluted it with water, and that just keeps you know, as the brisket's smoking away there, some of that will evaporate and will just keep the brisket nice and moist. So we'll hit it one more time here with a bit of the juice. You can see all that steam coming off from this cold temperature. There. Now we'll let it go. We're approaching the stall here at about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is where you know, we're probably still another 5 or 6 hours away from finishing up. So today we're cooking with the hickory pellets from Traeger, 100% pure hardwood pellets that are food grade. So fill up our pellet box, our hopper. We've been cooking for about 4 hours, and you saw we probably still had about 3 hours worth of pellets left in there. But we'll fill it up. Keep going. Just checking the brisket again. Gonna hit it with some more of our diluted orange pineapple juice. Oh, and you can see just incredible colors on this right now. And what you want to check, oh, it's still nice and loose. You don't want your brisket to firm up, because that's a sign of it becoming dry. So we're at 190 degrees Fahrenheit right now. So we're probably an hour and a half away from being finished. So our briskets hit an internal temp of 195. So we're gonna check it out and take it off the grill. Oh, just look at that color, the bark. Absolutely incredible. So we've got some claws here to help shift our brisket over to the cutting board. Look at that. Now we're going to wrap it in tin foil. We're going to let this sit for an hour so that the juices redistribute throughout the meat. So we've had our brisket resting, wrapped in tin foil for the last hour, and now we're going to unwrap it for the big reveal, folks. This is what we've all been waiting for, and you should just smell this. Oh, absolutely smells incredible. This has the bark. It smells like smoke. It's got all the flavors of the juice that we used to keep it moist. Now look at this. Now what I'm going to show you is how to carve this up. And you'll remember from earlier on in the video, the brisket's comprised of two different pieces of the meat. We've got the flat and we've got the point, and they're separated by a piece of muscle that goes down through the middle here. So what we're going to want to do, turn this over, and we're going to carve off the point like this. Again, you want to find that layer of fat that separates the two pieces. And so now for the flat, the way that we cut this up is we'll go in diagonally. You want to try and cut off about a 1/4 inch piece thick, or sorry, a 1/4 inch thick pieces. Now let's look at one of these. Oh, you can just see the smoke ring all around the outside. It's got bark, steam still coming off, absolutely perfect. And you can see this, it's great. You can hold it like that and it's not gonna fall itself, but it'll pass the pull test and just comes apart really easily like that. So that's how you cut up the flat end. For the point, you turn it this way and you carve down the middle. And this side is, again, the more well marbled piece of the brisket. And you can see here, there's just a ton of juice in this. There's all that marbling that's rendered out. It's absolutely perfect. A ton of juice, a ton of flavor here. And you can either have this with barbecue sauce, or if you really like the grilling or the barbecuing you've done, some people will argue it just won't need any sauce at all. And I think this brisket fits into that category.